Morning, everyone. This is the Bible reading, the daily Bible reading for section 2, lesson 3. Today we're reading Genesis 30 through 33 and Psalm 9. Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she conceived no children for Jacob, she envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children or else I will die." Then Jacob became furious with Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God who has denied you children?" She said, "Here, take my maid Bilhah and go in to her, and when the baby comes, she shall deliver it while sitting on my knees, so that by her I may also have children to count as my own." So she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as a secondary wife, and Jacob went in to her. Bilhah conceived and gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Rachel said, "God has judged and vindicated me, and has heard my plea, and has given me a son through my maid." So she named him Dan. He judged. Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and gave birth to a second son for Jacob. So Rachel said, "With mighty wrestlings and prayer to God, I have struggled with my sister and have prevailed." So she named him Naphtali, my wrestlings. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing children, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Jacob as a secondary wife. Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "How fortunate!" So she named him Gad, good fortune. Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a second son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "I am happy, for women will call me happy." So she named him Asher, happy. Now at the time of the wheat harvest, Reuben, the eldest child, went and found some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah answered, "Is it a small thing that you have taken my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrake also?" Excuse me. So Rachel said, "Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came into the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must sleep with me tonight, for I have in fact hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he slept with her that night. God listened and answered the prayer of Leah, and she conceived and gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "God has given me my reward because I have given my maid to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good marriage gift for my husband. Now he will live with me, regarding me with honor and as his wife, because I have given birth to six sons." So she named him Zebulun. Afterward she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered the prayers of Rachel, and God thought of her and opened her womb so that she would conceive. So she conceived and gave birth to a son, and she said, "God has taken away my disgrace and humiliation." She named him Joseph. May he add, and said, "May the Lord add to me another son." Now when Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away that I may go back to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know the work in which I have done for you." But Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, stay with me, for I have learned from omens and divination and by experience that the Lord has blessed me because of you." He said, "Name your wages, and I will give it to you." Jacob answered him, "You know I have served you, and how your possessions, your cattle, and your sheep and goats have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and has increased and multiplied abundantly, and the Lord has favored you with blessings wherever I turn. But now when shall I provide for my own household?" Laban asked, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob replied, "You shall not give me anything, but if you will do this one thing for me, which I now purpose, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep and every dark or black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and those shall be my wages. So my honesty will be evident for me later when you come for my accounting concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and dark among the young lambs, if found with me, shall be considered stolen." And Laban said, "Good, let it be done as you say." So on that same day, Laban secretly removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were spotted and speckled, every one with white on it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and put them in the care of his sons. And he put a distance 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob was then left in care of the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took branches of fresh poplar and among almond and plane trees, and peeled white strips in them, exposing the white in the branches. Then he set the branches which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they mated and conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks mated and conceived by the branches, and the flocks gave birth to streaked, speckled, and spotted offspring. Jacob separated the lambs, and as he had done with the peeled branches, he made the flocks face toward the streaked and all the dark or black in the new flock of Laban, and he put his own herds apart by themselves and did not put them where they could breed with Laban's flock. Furthermore, whenever the stronger animals of the flocks were breeding, Jacob would place the branches in the side of the flock in the watering troughs, so that they would mate and conceive among the branches. But when the flock was sickly, he did not put the branches there. So the sicker animals were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. So Jacob became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks of sheep and goats, and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. Genesis 31. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken away everything that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has acquired all this wealth and honor. Jacob noticed a change in the attitude of Laban and saw that it was not friendly toward him as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your people, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field. And he said to them, I see a change in your father's attitude, and that he is not friendly towards me, as he was before. But the God of my father Isaac has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me as often as possible and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not allow him to hurt me. If he said, the speckled shall be your wages, then the entire flock gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, the streaked shall be your wages, then the entire flock gave birth to streaked young. Thus God has taken away the flocks of your father and given them to me. And it happened at the time when the flock conceived, that I looked up and saw in a dream that the rams which mated with the female goats were streaked, speckled, and spotted. And the angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. He said, look up and see, all the rams which are mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, and spotted, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, and where you made a vow to me. Now stand up, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah answered him, is there still any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted by him as foreigners? For he sold us to you in marriage, and has also entirely used up our purchase price. Surely all the riches which God has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has told you to do, do it. Then Jacob stood and took action, and put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove away all his livestock, and took along all his property which he had acquired, the livestock he had obtained and accumulated in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel went inside the house and stole her father's household gods. And Jacob deceived Laban and the Aramean, the Syrian, by not telling him that he intended to leave, and he slipped away secretly. So he fled with everything that he had, and got up and crossed the river Euphrates, and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead, east of the Jordan River. On the 3rd day after his departure, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his relatives with him and pursued him for 7 days, and they overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream. At night, and said to him, be careful you do not speak to Jacob, either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent on the hill, and Laban with his relatives camped on the same hill of Gilead. So Laban said to Jacob, what do you mean by deceiving me, and leaving without my knowledge, and carrying off my daughters as if they were captives of the sword? Why did you run away secretly and deceive me and not tell me, so that otherwise I might have sent you away with joy and with songs, with music, tambourine and lyre? And why did you not allow me to kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye? Now you have done a foolish thing in behaving like this. Is it in my power to harm you? But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to speak to Jacob, either good or bad. Now I suppose you felt you must go because you were homesick for your father's house and family, but why did you steal my household gods? Jacob answered Laban, I left secretly because I was afraid, for I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. The one with whom you find your God shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, search my possessions and point out whatever you find that belonged to you, and take it. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and the tent of the 2 maids, and he did not find them. Then he came to Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols and put them in a camel's saddlebag, and she sat on them. Laban searched through all the tent, but did not find them. So Rachel said to her father, Do not be displeased, my lord, that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is on me, and I am unwell. He searched further, but did not find the household idols. Then Jacob became angry and argued with Laban. And he said to Laban, What is my fault? What is my sin that you pursue me like this? Although you have searched through all my possessions, what have you found of your household goods? Put it here before my relatives and your relatives, so that they may decide which is done right between the two of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not lost their young, nor have I eaten the rams of your flocks. I did not bring you the torn carcasses of the animals attacked by predators. I personally took the loss. You required of me to make good everything that was stolen, whether it occurred by day or night. This was my situation. By day the heat consumed me, and by night the cold, and I could not sleep. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for my share of your flocks. And you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abram, and the feared one of Isaac, had not been with me, most certainly you would have sent me away now empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and humiliation, and the exhausting labor of my hands. So he rendered judgment and rebuked you last night. Laban answered Jacob, These women that you marry are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, these flocks are from my flocks, and all that you see here is mine. But what can I do today to these my daughters and to their children, to whom they have given birth? So come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between you and me. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a memorial pillar. Jacob said to his relatives, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a mound of stones, and they ate a ceremonial meal together there on the mound of stones. Laban called it Jegar Sadahuth, stone monument of testimony in Aramaic, but Jacob called it Galeed. Laban said, This mound of stones is a witness, a reminder of the oath taken today between you and me. Therefore he also called the name Galeed. And Mizpah, watchtower. For Laban said, May the Lord watch between you and me. We are absent from one another. If you should mistreat, humiliate, oppress my daughters, or if you should take other wives besides my daughters, although no one is with us as a witness, see and remember God is witness between you and me. Laban said to Jacob, Look at this mound of stones, and look at this pillar which I have set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass by this mound to harm you, and that you will not pass by this mound pillar to harm me. The God of Abraham your father, and the God of Nahor my father, and the God, the image of worship of their father Terah, the idolater, judge between us. But Jacob swore only by the one true God, the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to the Lord on the mountain, and called his relatives to the meal, and they ate food and spent the night on the mountain. Early in the morning Laban got up and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters goodbye, and pronounced a blessing, asking God's favor on them. Then Laban left and returned home. Genesis 32. Then as Jacob went on his way, the angels of God met him to reassure and protect him. When Jacob saw them, he said, This is God's camp. So he named that place Mahanaim, double camps. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He commanded them, saying, This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says this, I have been living temporarily with Laban and have stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants, and female servants, and I have sent this message to you, tell my lord, so that I might find grace and kindness in your sight. The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 camps. And he said, If Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the other camp, which is left, will escape. Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord, who said to me, Return to your country and to your people, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the loving kindness and compassion and of all the faithfulness which you have shown your servant. With only my staff, long ago I crossed over this Jordan, and now I have become blessed and increased into these 2 groups of people. Save me, please, from the hand of my brother and the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he will come and attack me and the mothers with the children. And you, Lord, said, I will certainly make you prosper and make your descendants as numerous as the sand of the sea, which is too great to be counted. So Jacob spent the night there. Then he selected a present for his brother Esau from the livestock he had acquired, 200 female goats, 2 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milking camels with their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 donkey colts. He put them in the care of his servants, every herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go on ahead of me, and put an interval of space between the individual herds." Then he commanded the one in front, saying, "When Esau, my brother, meets you, and asks whom you belong, and where you are going, and whose are the animals in front of you, then you shall say, 'These are your servant Jacob's. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he also is behind us.'" And so Jacob commanded the second and third as well, and all that followed the herds, saying, "This is what you should say to Esau when you meet him. And you shall say, 'Look, your servant Jacob is behind us, for he said to himself, I will try to appease him with gifts that is going ahead of me. Then afterward I will see him, and perhaps he will accept and forgive me.'" So the gift of the herds of livestock went on ahead of him, and he himself spent the night back in the camp. But he got up that same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 children, and waded over the ford of Jabbok. Then he took them and sent them across the brook, and he also sent across whatever he had. So Jacob was left alone, and a man came and wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he had not prevailed against Jacob, he touched his hip joint, and Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you declare a blessing on me." So he asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And he declared a blessing of the covenant promises on Jacob there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, the face of God, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, yet my life has not been snatched away." Now the sun rose on him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of Jacob's thigh by the tendon of the hip. Genesis 33. Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 maids. He put the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children after them, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. Then Jacob crossed over the stream ahead of them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, bowing and moving forward each time until he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and hugged his neck and kissed him, and they wept for joy. Esau looked up and saw the women and the children and said, "Who are these with you?" So Jacob replied, "They are the children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the maids approached with their children, and they bowed down, and Leah also approached with her children, and then they bowed down. Afterwards Joseph and Rachel approached, and they bowed down. Esau asked, "What do you mean by all the company which I have met?" And he answered, "These are to find favor in your sight, my lord." But Esau said, "I have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Jacob replied, "No, please. If now I have found favor in your sight, then accept my gift as a blessing from my hand. For I see your face as if I had seen the face of God, and you have received me favorably. Please accept my blessing gift which has been brought to you. For God has dealt graciously with me, and I have everything that I could possibly want." So Jacob kept urging him, and Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, "Let us start our journey, and I will go in front of you to lead the way." But Jacob replied, "You know, my lord, and the children are frail and need gentle care, and the nursing flocks and herds with young are of concern to me. For if the men should drive them hard for a single day, all the flocks will die. Please let my lord go on ahead of his servant, and I will move on slowly, governed by the pace of the livestock that are in front of me, and according to the endurance of the children, until I come to my lord in Seir and Edom." Then Esau said, "Please let me leave you with some of the people who are with me." But Jacob said, "What need is there for it? Let me find favor in the sight of my lord." So Esau turned back towards the south that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed north to Succoth, and built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. So the name of the place is Succoth, huts, shelters. When Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely and in peace at the city of Shechem, in the land of Canaan, and kept in front of the walled city. Then he bought a piece of land on which he had pitched his tents from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. There he erected an altar and called it El Elohai Israel. Psalm 9. A psalm of thanksgiving for God's justice. To the chief musician on Multh Laban, a psalm of David. I will give thanks and praise the Lord with all my heart. I will tell aloud all your wonders and marvelous deeds. I will rejoice and exult in you. I will sing praises to your name, O Most High. When my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before you, for you have maintained my right and my cause. You have sat on the throne judging righteously. You have rebuked the nations. You have destroyed the wicked and unrepentant. You have wiped out their name forever and ever. The enemy has been cut off and has vanished, and everlasting ruins. You have upbraided their cities, the very memory of them have perished. But the Lord will remain and sit enthroned forever. He has prepared and established his throne for judgment, and he will judge the world in righteousness. He will execute judgment for the nations with fairness, equity. The Lord also will be a refuge and a stronghold for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. And those who know your name, who have experienced your precious mercy, will put their confident trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not abandoned those who seek you. Sing praises to the Lord, who dwells in Zion. Declare among the peoples his great and wondrous deeds. For he who avenges blood unjustly shed remembers them, his people. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted and abused. Have mercy on me and be gracious to me, O Lord. See how I am afflicted by those who hate me. You who lift me up from the gates of death, that I may tell aloud all your praises, that in the gates of the daughter of Zion, Jerusalem, I may rejoice in your salvation and your help. The nations have sunk down into the pit which they have made, and the net which they hid, their own foot has been caught. The Lord has made himself known, he executes judgment. The wicked are trapped by the work of their own hands. The wicked will turn to Sheol, the netherworld, the place of the dead. Even all the nations who forgot God, for the poor will not always be forgotten, nor the hope of the burden perish forever. Arise, O Lord, do not let man prevail. Let the nations be judged before you, and put them in reverent fear of you, Lord, so that the nations may know they are but frail and mortal men.